here's Brody Brazil.
I do want to thank all of you for the tremendous support here on the channel. When I recently asked for questions, you gave me about 200 of them to sort through, and now I'm here with about 20 answers. So yeah, basically about 1 in 10 is going to make the cut here. So hopefully I've narrowed this down to interesting questions, compelling answers. I'm not going to waste your time. Here we go. Aziria writes in to say, love the channel, Brody, and the gray looks great on you, mate. Don't worry about it. Hey, I appreciate that. I saw a recent photo of me. I didn't remember so much gray, but it's there now, and I'm keeping it. In your opinion, what's the future of public ownership in sport in North America? Will cities and states try and buy stakes in their sports franchises? Will the leagues fight them tooth and nail to stop them? Well, I don't think the leagues are going to have to fight anything, because I don't think any local city, county, or state government is going to ever try and buy a stake in their respective pro sports team. And I feel like their contribution, and a lot of these have already been made, is usually the public money. Anytime there's public money to a private sports team, I feel like it should go above and beyond what is typically a 30-year non-relocation agreement. The city, I should say the team should feel tied to that city or that state or that region so much more once they've accepted public money. They're now officially part of the community, and their exit should be that much more difficult. Well, now we're in this cat and mouse game of teams threatening to leave if they don't get the public money, and cities and states and counties playing hardball the other way, and we'll see if you actually leave. It is just not a pretty scene, and in my opinion, it is one of the top headlines of all the sports here in the 2020s, of teams and their threats and new stadiums. And look, every team sees it. They all know it. They all want to get into the real estate business. They all love the ballpark village. They all love the entertainment district to surround their arena. So it's a popular thing. Every team wants to get into real estate, but it's a messy thing once public entities get involved. I don't see them buying it. I feel like even them giving money subsidies is starting to become a thing of the past, at least in a lot of regions around the country. Falkenroth 1, am I saying that right? Would you consider doing more in-depth coverage of the Utah Hockey Club team roster? Seems like they're making a lot of changes, and it's hard to keep up with here in Arizona. I'm interested in how much Coyotes from last year will actually play in Utah. Let me just say this about my Utah coverage. It obviously started when the team was the Arizona Coyotes, and there were rumors about potential relocation, and I was all over that situation January, February, March, and then obviously April, the move. I don't know where it stops for me. I've continued to cover the Utah Hockey Club, the team name, their jerseys, the arena situation, the public money, and when all that settles down, when the dust eventually kind of settles, maybe in 6 to 9 months, maybe there will just be nothing left for me beyond the hockey team, and I don't know if I'll ever cover them X's and O's. If there's a demand, quite possibly. I want to cater to the audience if that really is a thing, and if enough Utahns have found me and want me to go there, I just might. But I've yet to decide exactly how far I'll be covering this team in their evolution. Jorge 2004, have you noticed a lot of buzz about Celebrini around the Bay in non-hockey or even sports in general context? I feel like I have, which is interesting to me considering hockey usually isn't as popular in the Bay when compared to football, basketball, and baseball. And look, I totally agree. I've seen it in a multitude of different ways. Number one, being in Las Vegas for draft night at the end of June, there were a ton of Sharks jerseys. And I expected to see some. It's only Las Vegas. It's not that far away. San Jose fans can get there pretty easy, but there were way more than I expected. And the metrics I've been seeing on Celebrini talk and videos, and I'm not just doing this for the numbers, but anytime I put something out and I say, I wonder if people will find this interesting. And when it's a Celebrini topic or conversation, it usually does quite well. So I'm starting to see a huge uptick in the Sharks, but specifically Celebrini and Smith and some of the other youngsters. I think you can kind of feel the train coming down the track. So that is a good observation. I definitely feel it too. Pokketg, P-O-K-K-E-T-G. Sorry, I got to stop with the pronunciations here. Will Smith stood out most during the Sharks prospect game. Do you think there's a chance that he can turn out to be a better player than Celebrini? Well, I'm not ready to declare anything yet. Will Smith also has just a tad more age and experience under his belt and maybe just felt more comfortable in that prospects game and that scrimmage. Anything's possible. right? Sometimes a number 4 pick might be a better player in 10 years, 15 years than a number 1 pick. How about Sam Dickinson at 11? He might be better than a lot of top 5 picks from this current draft of the summer. So it's impossible to say, would that be a good problem for the Sharks if one were slightly better than the other and they're both great? I mean, yeah, you would take it. The answer is, who knows right now? We won't know for a long time. It wouldn't surprise me. Anything wouldn't surprise me. A draft is a draft. It's a starting point of where you think players are projected and where you're going to take them. How they turn out, how they develop and evolve and mature, a lot remains to be seen for players rounds 1 through, 6 and 7. Kyle Newman, 6911. Commissioner for a day. If you were the commissioner for all 4 major sports leagues, what changes would you make? To where would you expand, etc.? Love your videos. Keep up the awesome work. I appreciate that, Kyle. I know I talk a lot about relocation and expansion here, but let me just say what I would do as commissioner of any league is try and figure out a way to cater to the fans. And by that, I mean give them a voice at the table, right? Because the league's owners have the league commissioner to speak the agenda and to go the places that the team's owners want the commissioner to go. And the Players Association and the NHL and baseball and football and basketball, each one of those leagues has a respective Players Association, and their leader, their president, speak for the players. But it's kind of like a triangle in sports. There's, the ownership, however you see it, the players, and then the other tip of that triangle is the fans. And where's the fans' voice in all of this? Do you like the rule changes or not? Do you like the way this is going or not? I guess fans speak with their money and with their dollar. And I'm not saying let the fans run the leagues. Somebody's got to be responsible for these business interests, but give them some kind of seat at the table. Show them the seat at the table. Let them know it exists and that you care about them. Shamurai Master 1521. Brody, I think it's time to bring back the 2020 mop. Do you remember when my hair used to come down my shoulders in 2020? For a while, yeah, I was obviously avoiding getting a haircut. That was just not something people were doing. But then for a while, I was like, you know what? No, we're going to let this go. We're going to make hideous even more hideous. And how many times had I ever grown it to here? So what's the difference between here and here and here? I will say 2 things. Number 1, I have a full respect for anybody with long hair. I'll never do it again. It's on the pillow. It's uncomfortable and in your face. And then too much shampoo will dry out your scalp. It's miserable. So next time there's a health crisis, a public health crisis, I'm just shaving my head. I've got a way better set of clippers right now. You will never see me with that flow again, but you might see me with a shaved head eventually. Alan E. 2307. So if you could have only one of these 2 things, what would you want? Number 1, Stanley Cup championship for the San Jose Sharks, or 2, permanent pilot job in Kona, Hawaii. Okay, Alan E., you know me quite well. I would enjoy both of those things, but I would enjoy the Stanley Cup so much more because I feel like the pilot job, if I wanted it, I might be able to go out and get it. I'm only maybe 100 to 2 hours away from qualifying for something like that of flight time. But the Sharks have never had the Stanley Cup championship. They've never had the parade. They've never had that in 30 plus years of existence. So of course, that's what I'd want to see. Number 1 is a bucket list item. Number 2 here is just kind of me daydreaming, but I appreciate that question. You know me quite well. K Grove 17, Brody, how long do you think this A's saga will drag on? Do you think MLB would ever step in and essentially force Fisher to sell, kind of like what the NHL did with Alex Murillo? I feel absolutely gutted for all the fans in Oakland and wish there was a way to keep the A's where they belong. I'll keep this one short and simple. There are a significant amount of parallels between what the Coyotes were doing and what the A's are currently doing. Temporary home situation. They don't have really the next step after that. Totally ink dried and concrete poured yet. So on the flip side, though, there is one main difference. Like the NHL had always kept their eye out on the Coyotes and what they were doing and monitoring the situation and making visits. Major League Baseball has already approved everything the A's need to get to Las Vegas. The Sacramento thing is supposed to be a temporary situation. A lot of that remains to be seen entirely. But yeah, therein lies a huge difference of how hockey handled something versus how baseball is currently handling it. But I agree. And the process goes on so long. You always feel like something's got to give around the corner. And then it doesn't. And then we're still in the land of uncertainty. So I wish I had more. I wish I had more instinct. I wish there was more to talk about lately. It just seems like it's gone so quiet for so long on this front. And I don't know what to read into that. All right, up next, it's Andy Granning, 2190. What advice do you have for young people who want to get into journalism and TV? My daughter is getting the bug. With influencer/YouTube culture on the rise, hey, thanks for checking me out. Like and subscribe. What do you think about the future? I'm just a few years older than you, me. Spent 17 years in 5 markets as a TV producer. Now I've spent the last 7 years working in marketing. Andy, I think it's a crazy world out there. And when you and I got into it, there was only TV. There was only old school media. That's what you did. I think getting your own YouTube channel, becoming an influencer, whatever you want to call it, a content creator. It's harder to sustain in a full-time career because you need a following. You need to build that up for quite some time. Your numbers have to be pretty good to do as well as maybe, a television type job, an old media type job. It's possible. You got to put a ton of work into it though. But it's a great place to start. It's a great place to grow your craft and to get repetition. So I think the answer is do both if you can get them. Start one way, start the other. It doesn't matter, but make sure eventually you get to both. And if one is more successful and one makes a lot more sense, then you kind of edge on that route versus the other. Michael Bott, 3387. When the Sharks win the Cup this upcoming season, where are you taking the Cup? You're assuming they would allow me to have it for a day? Look, I'll just take a ring and be happy with that. LOL, JK. Real question is, do you still get nervous interviewing people? Or have you conquered that part of the job? That's a great question, Michael. And I think the honest, best answer I can give you is that there's just something about the process. I'm actually more not nervous, but I'm more on edge about, am I going to nail the question? Am I really going to have it so this person gives me a good response? I almost care more about that than I do who the actual person I'm talking to is. And yeah, there have been times where it's somebody who I walk up to, I'm like, this is pretty cool. I'm going to get to chat with you, record it on camera here, and we'll keep this forever. And I hope I do a really good job. So I think to answer your question, it's less about me caring, who that other person is. Don't really get starstruck as much anymore, but it's more about like the pressure and the edge is more about, can I nail this so even they think, this was a pretty good interview. I just want to do a really good job. So if that makes sense. F4B Phantom. Hey, Brody. You've talked a lot about new stadium plans by various teams across all sports and the rejection of cities putting in a lot of public funding. Do you see this as a beginning for teams to shift away from public to private funding, or will we see an increase in team relocations? Love the channel. I may have already semi-answered this before, but I don't think this is going to end. I don't see any instant resolution to this anytime soon because there are still markets. Look at Utah, for example. $900 million for basketball and hockey, $900 million for baseball. They signed off, the state did, back in February for $1.8 billion of public money, plus the more that they're going to give, like the Smith Entertainment Group, for the county's land 2 blocks east of Delta Center, but I digress. So I don't know that every market across the country is going to just shut it down with the public money. Some are. Anywhere in California, like good luck. Anywhere on the West Coast, quite honestly, good luck getting public money. So I don't know that it's going to be an entire shift because certain regions are still okay with that, or they see a benefit in that, or that's just something they want to do. But I definitely think the team relocations and the scars they leave and the feelings they cause, it's not good. It's not good for any league, but especially for Major League Baseball, which seems to have kind of the most of them at current position right now. Michael Atondo, 7617. I'm close, hopefully. Hey, Brody, do you believe MLB should implement a salary floor? I think it's a good idea. Because you have kind of that soft cap, like in hockey, there's a hard cap. You cannot spend over the cap. There's no luxury tax. You can't do it. Cannot spend over the cap. In baseball, there's a soft cap. You can spend over it. And if you do, you pay a luxury tax, which goes to the bottom feeding teams. The problem is a bottom feeding team could be paying a minimal amount of salary and reap all the benefits of that luxury tax share. Shouldn't there be a minimum threshold that you have to spend at least like half the median? Maybe Because if the median is like $160 million in Major League Baseball, I think that's pretty close. Like the 15th or so team is spending about $150 million on player salary. Shouldn't you have to spend at least 75 may not be enough. Maybe half that plus 15, 90. Shouldn't you have to spend at least $90 million on players to start getting you up to 100, 110, 120, whatever it is? So I do feel like it would make more of a competitive league. Look how competitive the NHL is. And yeah, players will love to hear this, that there would be a salary cap floor that only helps them and more players make more money, but it also makes the product more competitive top to bottom in terms of spending. And especially, like I said, if you already have the luxury tax intact, why not make it so that you have to qualify to receive the luxury tax benefits? Heavy C 78, big supporter of the channel. Good to see you, Heavy C. Hey, Brody, with the ball season a little over halfway through, how are you feeling that this last season in Oakland is coming to the end? And any feelings on still rooting as an A's fan? I think it's going by so fast, to your point, that it's almost hard to grasp and slow down. Like, we are past the halfway point. The All-Star break is well past the halfway point. And I think what has really made it set in for me this baseball season is actually watching the opposing team's broadcasts, and their broadcasters say, hey, this is the last time the Baltimore Orioles will ever play a game here. Because the A's playing all these games, it's tangible, but it doesn't hit. But when another team comes in and plays their last series and they say, well, that's it from the Coliseum, you'll never see this again. Whoa, that hits. And I think as we get closer to the end of September and that final home game at the Coliseum, that day game, like, that's going to hit times 100. And I think people are aware of it. They see the stadium selling out, but they just don't even know what that day is going to bring in so many different ways yet. In terms of the rooting part, it's just kind of numb right now, to be very honest, and I'll leave it at that. Roger Villanueva. Am I saying that right? 3779. Hey, Roger. Brody, college football is a mess. Weak NCAA leadership, paying athletes, NIL, transfer portal, network money, realignment, destruction of the Pac-12, and risks to the ACC and Big 12 down the line. College football playoff, coaches jumping ship. Oh man, this is everything here. I'm loving it. Year-round recruiting and university facilities, Olympic sports travel, and the constant mention of how important student athletes are. Yeah, right. College football is becoming a feeder league into the NFL. Fans will turn away and the money will dry up sooner than later. What do you do to fix it? Oof. All right, Roger. I think you're saying that rhetorically. You got to fix all those things, and I think that's impossible. Do you know what I'm thinking along the same lines as you? I know this isn't answering your question, but I'm going to take your question and make it more of a comment and take it 2 steps farther. I think college football from a top 50 school scenario, like the top 50 college football programs or so, they're going to bind together and form their own college football league. And they're going to exclude all of the other smaller D1 schools, and they're just going to say, sorry, you're left out. Just go play in NCAA. We're going to start something new and call this something else. And basically, to your point, they're going to make it like minor league baseball is to Major League Baseball, like the AHL is to the NHL, and like the G League is to the NBA. They're basically going to make an NFL minor leagues. The college teams are. And it's going to be the best of the best. And they're going to all play against each other and exclusively play against each other. And they'll have salaries, I think. They'll just kind of rewrite their own rules. They'll be separate from NCAA. I think college football is going to detach from NCAA. That would destroy NCAA. That's where all the other programs make a lot of their money to actually operate and travel and run teams and programs and coaches and all that. So I don't know that I'm here to fix it. I'm here seeing and saying what you're seeing. This ain't good and it ain't getting better. SJ Sharks fan 8573. When do you think the Sharks will be a playoff threat again? I want to know from Brody the fan, not Brody the broadcaster, meaning actually answer. Soon. This year, probably not. Next year, playoff threat? Yeah, if we're talking just get to the playoffs, quite possibly. 3 years down the road? Yeah, absolutely hope so. I don't want to pin it on a year, a season, or anything like that. I would love if they surprise me and arrive earlier than scheduled or earlier than expected. But I think you have to realize where they've been and what this process is. Go look up the Golden State Warriors. Was Steph Curry drafted in 2009? And then Clay was drafted in 2011? Am I right here? Or is it 12, 10, 12? Anyway, the Warriors didn't make the playoffs until, was it 12, 13 or 13, 14? It took a couple years of ramping up to get Steph and to get Clay and to get Draymond, and then to make the playoffs after that, like 9 of the next 12 years, and win a small handful of titles. It takes a while to ramp up, and what you're seeing right now is that ramp-up process. S. Overstreet, what's your opinion regarding youth travel at sports, AAU, select, etc., as kid and teen athletes that are successful in their school also participate from the travel, money, costs, and playing time/coaching program? As I have a 15-year-old who's been playing select baseball for 3 years now, unlike the last 2 seasons where my son played nearly every game and was successful, this season he's played half the game, and his interest in baseball is winding down to where he now wants to do other activities, which is fine by me. I love the fact that parents, and now being a parent, I really get this, they get into their kids' sports and they want to provide the best and they want to give them these experiences and great jerseys and play on cool fields and travel and have great coaches and all that stuff, but I think you got to read your kid. And I think you're doing the right thing here, S. Overstreet, just reading the kid and reading the interest level. If it was there for a while and then they really liked it, but then they really didn't, you can ramp it down too. The most important thing, I think, is that you realize 2 things. The odds for any child to make it as a professional athlete someday is very slim. So the most important thing that I've seen and witnessed, and it's in my own life too, find a way to enjoy sports so that when their kid turned into teenager turned into young adult, that they still love and respect sports and they loved their experience. That's what's going to stick with them no matter what. Just make it a good experience. So you're not doing the wrong thing and understanding that, hey, this is pretty built up. And maybe my kid likes it just more simple. It doesn't need all that build up. Justin Howland, 6509. Do you believe the NHL will expand to 36 teams? If so, what are your early predictions on what cities will get expansion? Atlanta, Arizona, Phoenix. I think Phoenix is wide open. So there's 2. Now you're up to 34. And I think to your point, Justin, I think you got to go from 32 with a mind of how do you get to 36? You don't just add 33 and 34 and say, well, we're going to pause 5 years. You literally got to do 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1 and 2, or 1, 2, and then 3, 4 later, add 2 at a time, whatever. Even numbers are great. So maybe, adding them by 2s is what you do. But I don't think you go to 33 without going to 36. And I don't know that the league would be too diluted by then. I do worry about any more than 36. But yeah, as I've said before, I understand the popularity behind Atlanta. I also realize that it's failed there multiple times before. Separate video here on the channel about that, by the way. Houston should be in the mix. I know there's some weird places. I say weird because you wouldn't think of hockey in Kansas City necessarily at the NHL level, or potentially Cincinnati. But I do think Phoenix deserves a cut in line based on what that fan base has gone through down there. Phoenix and Houston, let's start there. And then maybe Atlanta. So there's 3. I don't know where the 4th would come from. Troy Johnson Jr. Hey, Brody, what's up? My name is Troy again. You're a wonderful YouTuber. I like your channel. I really appreciate that. Do you think the MLB needs to capitalize on the 4th of July as its national holiday to showcase the sport? Could not agree with you more. You got to make dynamic matchups. You got to sequence games. You got to do something special on 4th of July for those baseball games. Now, I do understand it's kind of a hard day to have games and expect everybody to show up. People have barbecues and fireworks to do and parades to show up to. So maybe that's hard, right? Maybe you don't actually want to. It's like the NBA doesn't have, they now have a pretty stacked Christmas Day schedule. It used to be just 2 games, like Bulls, Knicks out east, and then Celtics, Lakers out west. And that's it. 4 teams, 2 games on Christmas Day. Now the NBA has 6 or 7 games every Christmas Day. It's actually too much. Baseball, you're playing every day no matter what. But I agree, they could do something better and or special surrounding 4th of July. Maybe just do the All-Star game, 4th of July. Move it up. Why is it so late? Right? If you did, 4th of July is closer to the actual middle of the season. Wonder why they wait a little bit longer. Anyway, I totally agree. What's your favorite color? B-Win DCI. Blue. Simple as that. And I don't know why. I've always liked blue the best. Green is my second choice. My son knows that. He asks me that all the time. Super Galaxy, how do you feel about the 2024 All-Star selections, especially the one for the Athletics? I'm very happy for Mason Miller. You're going to see an interview I did with him recently, pretty soon here on the channel, in short form and in long form. Just easy to root for, very humble, very smart, very eloquent with his words. He gets it, and he throws 103 miles an hour. I'd love to see him actually start the game. Why not? He said he's going to rear back and throw 103. Have him start the game, have him throw one inning. He's probably just going to face 3 batters and strike out 2. It's pretty much what he does in 9th innings. The only other thing I want to say about the All-Star teams is I saw that there are more than 30 first-timers for the 2024 Baseball All-Star Game. And the selection process, like first-timers is great, give kids the opportunity, but don't you want those kids to also come in and meet some veterans and rub shoulders with, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm here in the same clubhouse with whoever. So I wish, and there's never a right way to get the selections perfect. You're always going to snub somebody. You're never going to have it so everybody's satisfied. I get that. I would love to have players choose the All-Star teams. I'd love to have managers or coaches choose the All-Star teams. I'm not knocking you and me, the fan, or me, somebody in media. Media should never really be doing it. But wouldn't you like to have the players select who they think are the All-Stars? So, up and down the list, top to bottom, it's fine. There's also a lot of injured star players this year that just can't participate. So, there you go. That's 20 answers to 20 questions. I really appreciate the 200 that you submitted. I don't know, about a week ago. That's the end of this video. Thumbs up since you made it all the way here to the end. I really appreciate that. It helps me, this video, and this channel. I would like the thumbs up, but I would love if you go down there and hit that subscribe button. That's because I'll definitely get to see you here next time.